and welcome to AC23, the weekly peek at arts and culture in the Capital Region. We are the radio show / podcast of the Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge. My name is Chancellor xero Skidmore, and my producer is Jeremy Porcine. I'd like to humbly ask you all to take a moment to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts. And while you're there, you might as well give us 5 stars or however many stars you think perfection deserves. I don't know. Today, I'd like to talk about change. During this pandemic, we've all had to change, adjust, whether it be our monthly budgets, how we do our work, how we cope with the lack thereof, the ways in which we physically socialize, or how often we wash our hands. We've all had to adapt to a new normal that in and of itself is fluctuating. For artists, this is also true. The band I play with, the Michael Foster Project, we recently did a live show on Facebook and Instagram, and we're a band of 7 members. In an attempt to physically distance ourselves from each other, we planned an outdoor gig, and of course, this Louisiana weather had no respect for our plans. Cameras got wet, sound equipment got wet, instruments got wet. Either way, we ended up pulling off the show, but it was not at the level of quality that we were really aiming for. Artists in this historical moment have to be not only talented, but technically savvy and have some level of expertise when it comes to marketing their art to a public that cannot yet come out in public. Even after quarantines are lifted, how many people are going to feel comfortable attending crowded shows? I'm guessing not many. So how do artists attain success? How do we put food on the table? My guest today is one of those artists who's highly skilled at using the technological tools of this age. He's a gifted composer, writer, and performer. He's also gifted at strategically branding and positioning his work for optimum effect. He's one of the performing artists and the creative director of a show that the Arts Council and the Baton Rouge General Foundation are bringing into your very homes. It's called Music is Medicine. It's a concert that is also featuring Mark Broussard, Paris County Line, Justin Garner, and Palomino Darling. The show is part of an ongoing series for the Arts Council called TGIF Virtual Concerts, and I think this is a stellar lineup to kick things off. It's going to be April 25th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. You can go to musicIsMedicineBR.com for more details and also to stream the concert. So I'm excited to jump into this conversation. JST David, welcome to AC23. What's up?
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, bro. I'm so excited to talk to you. So, David, of course, all of us Baton Rouge musicians know each other. I've been trying to figure out when we first met. Of course, my brain is a little more elderly than yours. So I'm thinking maybe you know better than me.
And I think it was a combination of running into the project, right?
Yeah.
And just seeing you guys out performing maybe at an event. I remember one specific time where we had a chance to kind of chop it up at an event for 225 magazine that you guys performed at. This was many years ago, maybe back in 2015 or 14 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then also your daughter, she's a musician as well, and she was doing music, and I knew that you guys were connected. So I had a chance to hear her stuff probably right around the same time as I got a chance to become familiar with you and what you were doing, man. Aside from that too, with the poetry, you're a legend in the streets. So it's
well, I appreciate you saying that. It's a big fish in a small pond kind of thing. Never really got to the point, where I was touring like you guys. But I am, really so excited to see this younger generation of musicians and poets and artists in and around Baton Rouge kind of, going farther than we went back in the day. And just proud, bro. Just proud of what you've been doing. And just proud. Great work. So a little bit of your background. When did you know that you were an artist? Whenever I have an artist on the show, I got to know. Like, when did that light bulb go off?
I'm still trying to figure out if I am one. I kind of grew up, man, being a kid that had a lot of really weird interest in the context of what my friends were interested in at the time.
Yeah.
Real athletic guy, played sports, state champion in high school, but I was also a real bookworm. I was into coding and development on the web back when, it was first really being explored that way by people of my generation.
Yeah.
And I spent probably an equal amount of time with just trying to sharpen those skills for myself personally, because I enjoyed them, and doing all the other things that kids my age were doing. And got to university, studied humanities at LSU, and was really on a path or a chart that a track that I charted for myself to get into politics.
Yeah.
And got behind the hood and started working in city government, and started working personally for a few state officials and folks as well. And I realized that, man, I don't know if this is something that my heart can fully be married to and move forward. And I don't know if I can do this the way that I thought I was going to do. And so that really set me on this current kind of creative journey that I'm on now. I got an opportunity to work at a marketing and ad agency back in 2013 as a digital strategist. And it was kind of the marriage between my communication skills and my style, and working to understand more of the creative process of what it takes to pull together projects for brands, for individuals, and then also learning the business side. So that was a real crash course for me to kind of put my toes in the water and realize, like, oh, all that stuff that I spent time on honing certain skills when I was young for myself, just because I liked it, is actually applicable in the real world and is super valuable. And that was right around the same time that I started picking up the guitar. I was inspired by a guy named David Ryan Harris, brother who I don't know exactly where he's originally from, but he lives out in Los Angeles, prolific singer-songwriter, guitar player. And he was the first like Black guy in a contemporary sense that I saw singing and playing in a way that moved me. I was like, man, if I could sing and play like that, that's exactly what I would want to do.
So before then, were you singing at all? I know you said you picked up the
I was doing
guitar.
nothing. I was doing nothing.
Really?
I wasn't singing. I wasn't playing. I wasn't writing. Like, my dad is low key an incredible vocalist, and he'll just like sing and hum around the house and stuff. Gospel, blues, jazz, whatever. And I think we talk about this often. I think because I recognize how good he was.
Yeah.
I was never even comfortable with opening my mouth to even like hum a few bars to even see if I had a voice or discover that.
Yeah.
But I started hanging out with a couple of friends, namely one of my buddies from high school. His name is Joey. And he was a great guitarist, played for about 12 years. And we would hang out and I would like just sing along to songs that we both knew. And he was like, man, you got kind of a nice voice. Like, we should do this together. We should get out and play some acoustic shows. I'll play. You can sing. And long story short, man, I've been on this journey for a good 6.5 years now of just learning an instrument, studying really, really great artists and people that I feel like are prolific, and trying to find my own style and myself within that. And it's crazy where music has taken me. I've literally been around the world. I had a chance to go this past year with Mark Broussard to Russia.
Wow.
And we were in St. Petersburg for a week, man, for a crazy performance. And it just so happened to be on my birthday. My birthday landed while we were over there. And I was just sitting in the hotel room reflecting and just being like, the heck am I doing, man? Like, how did I get here? Like, this is beautiful. This is amazing. This is an entirely different world. This is an entirely different path and trajectory than what I would have ever charted or planned for myself. I never wanted to be an artist. I never wanted to be a musician. And I definitely never wanted to be recognized as such. You know what I'm saying? So I'm still getting used to a lot of the things that come with being an artist. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that I could do anything else with my life. I think that art and the expression and the ability to leverage influence into philosophy, etc., through the arts, man, is so powerful. And it's like the intersection of deep down, I believe, what I always wanted. So this is an exciting season of time for me, just in terms of self-discovery.
Wow, man, that story is so unlike most of the stories I hear when I ask that question. Typically, and you know this as well. Like we know a lot of, particularly like as drummers. I always like ask drummers like, "How long you been playing?" "Since I was 3." And I was like, "No, not how long you been banging on stuff. Like really playing." "Oh no, I had an instructor since." And I'm like, "Wow, man!" It's like I feel like such a late bloomer myself. But that's awesome. That's you sound like a good kind of combination of left brain and right brain in your approach to not just the music, but also you say you did coding and you did all of these. You pursued a career in politics for a while. Stuff that you don't just most musicians I know can't do simple addition. It's just it's just us. So I noticed that you also you're doing like photography and you're curating content for other artists. When did that stuff start to kick in? I think you got a great eye as a photographer as well.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Honestly, I think that began to really take form before I was comfortable with coming out and like publicly letting folks know that, hey, I'm doing music. I'm not just playing guitar in my room. Right. I really have something that I feel like I want to say and that I want to share. And I want you guys to come on this journey with me. Right. I was doing creative stuff and marketing and strategy and, photo, video things long before that. As I mentioned, I had an opportunity to work at an ad agency for a good year and a half. And once I learned the business side, I actually stepped out and started my own boutique agency. It's a real heavy learning experience, trial by fire, man.
Yeah.
I was broke, but I had a vision of how I wanted to execute on things. And the fulcrum of it was really about using the creative and using storytelling to leverage community and something that could be impactful and have a lot of dynamism within the community, because people are at the core of my heart and the core of my reason why is wanting to see people to come into the full understanding of their potential and their purpose here in this life. And so for me, I think photography, coding, and now even music is all a means to an end in my mind. They're just tools in the toolbox for me to accomplish that goal. And over time, man, I've just sharpened it. I've had wins, I've had losses. But yeah, I'm a jack of all trades for that end goal. I'm trying to help people to realize their potential and let them know that, from my perspective, that God has a purpose and a plan for their lives, and that we all have a way to contribute, especially in a time like right now, right? There's so much vitriol and crazy stuff that's on the interwebs, man, and you're seeing people's real true colors. And my whole thing, when all this first started and the lockdown was official, I had to take a few days to kind of settle myself. Yeah, I'm already kind of in isolation, just by the nature of the work that I do and as an artist. Mm-hmm. But I had to take a few days to settle myself and really ground myself. And then, I was just praying. I was like, all right, what can I do in this moment to execute, to keep my head down on a personal level and can continue to develop as a man, as an entrepreneur, as an artist, but also how can I help others to execute in helping and being of service in this time instead of just, being a talking head on social media. And
man, you're going right into, my next question was, I was curious about like, what were you working on? I know you say you recently were in Russia with Mark Broussard. That's amazing. And it's great that you're getting that kind of exposure, or we're getting that kind of exposure. But I know there's some new fans in Russia right now, right? So what were you working on when the shutdown happened?
To be completely honest, I was working on a couple of different things on a professional level, just in terms of entrepreneurship and creativity, where it's led me. I've moved from many years ago, kind of running this agency with a few other partners, to now just being completely freelance. And I do a lot of creative business consultation with influencers on social media in a wide variety of kind of like genres and interests.
Yeah.
And so I was actually kind of gearing up to release some new messaging and creative stuff around some opportunities and some different packages that I was going to make available for folks. And artistically, low key, I've been working on my next full length debut, my full length debut album, my next album. And it's actually self-produced. So it's a real big deal for me. I've been quiet about it. And it's amazing, man. I gotta say, it's amazing. It's coming together quite well. But I had some creative transitions. A guy that I was working with who was doing engineering and help me to facilitate the project. He ended up taking a different direction that he wanted to go in with his life and his time. So I was also in a position where I needed to figure out how I was going to transition out of being dependent on him for certain things, figuring out what I needed to supplement, and then just trying to spend time with family and whatnot. Those were really kind of my focuses. I was getting ready to, I guess, kind of unveil the new season of me as an artist and as an individual. And then boom, COVID-19 hits. And so we find ourselves in a space where a lot of people are in unfamiliar territory, especially artists who depend a lot more on the live performances, like you mentioned earlier, and the gigs. I'm not a cat that plays out that much. So it's a little different for me when I speak from an artist's perspective of how the coronavirus has affected me personally. I didn't perform locally. I didn't perform one time last year.
Yeah.
So the bulk of
and people might not know, but there's a difference between like us giggers who might play some original music, but do a lot of covers, right? Play a lot of weddings and stuff like that. And then there are recording artists who focus on recording and putting out albums, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's I fall in the latter category. To be completely honest, like I've always been very hesitant about like playing live because it's such an intimate thing for me, and I play all original music. The situation and the circumstance has to be like very curated and very specific. So it doesn't work well in terms of making live performance income as like the fulcrum of what keeps me alive as an artist. And thankfully, I have other ways to generate revenue. When I first met Mark Broussard, it was a real kind of organic connection that he and I actually had on the streets of New Orleans. I saw him and he thought he recognized me, and I kind of went along with it. And I was like, "You don't know me, man. You think you know me, you don't, but I got something I want you to hear." I ran to the car, took my guitar out, and a really great friendship blossomed. Well, long story short, maybe about a year later, I became his creative director. Yeah. And so I was actually on tour with him, had a chance to go all across the country and learn the ropes from a guy who's a seasoned vet, who's got thousands and thousands of fans, and even like the most rural towns in America, people show up. It's crazy. But I was able to have a behind the scenes look on how he carries himself as an artist, the continuity and the relationships between the band, management with his team that's out in New York, folks here on the ground locally in Louisiana, and facilitating like creative stuff on his end that actually not just look pretty and got views on YouTube, but actually creating merchandise and things that were sold at the merch table that I would then run and stuff. So just being able to be so intimately involved in the process of someone who is established within a primarily a performance touring mechanism and model was a real interesting way for me to look behind the hood and to understand that more. So I can definitely empathize with a lot of artists right now, especially here locally in Louisiana, man. Like if you're doing music, you out in New Orleans, maybe you're out in Baton Rouge, you're playing the stuff that people want to hear and what they expect when they come to Louisiana off of the whole tourism kind of model. And with that being shut down, it's like man, I'm just feeling for all of my homies, because most of the people that I know in the music scene fall into that category all across the country. So it's interesting, man. That is kind of the question as well. You mentioned that at the top of the show as well. It's like, where do we go? You know, how are things going to shape out, and how are they going to look? I think I have some solutions that are coming to me, and I'm very thankful that I have the knowledge base that I do when it comes to like marketing and advertising and all this kind of stuff. Hopefully I'll be able to package that up and help some of our fellow artists and folks in the community at large as well.
You don't want to do it. I feel like if artists need to find somebody to help them figure this moment in time out, you're one of the people that needs to be sitting at the table. Going back to your meeting with Mark Broussard, I always love to hear when an artist just shoots their shot and you're running and getting your guitar and coming back and playing something for him. Like that's one of those biography moments that, got to be.
It literally happened like that at the
Just David movie. Like that scene is going to be in the Just David movie, right?
Yeah, man. It literally happened like that at the Ace Hotel, right in front of it in New Orleans on Royal. Wow. And the bigger story is just that, dude was open, right?
Well, that has to happen too, right? I mean, a lot of people do shoot their shot, but it doesn't always land, right? I think that, moving forward, I know that my daughter, like you, she had just started on a new album when this year started. And when this thing hit, the first thing she and I were talking about was like, oh man, you could just spend this time working on the album and getting the album done. But then you start to really think about it. It's like, how do you promote an album when you can't perform anywhere or in a climate when nobody's showing up? So like all the rules are rewritten. So yes, of course, artists can still be doing work right now, but how do the way you market that work or even, and quite often the way you market it impacts your thought process when you're creating it. And so, right. Man, I'm glad you're one of those people who are out there trying to inform people on, help your fellow musicians and your fellow recording artists. That's our time. But man, I wish I had a whole lot more time to sit and talk to you. Thank you so much, Just David. The show on the 25th, people got to tune in 5 to 6:30 p.m.
Yes.
Yes.
Music is medicine.
Music is medicine, br.com. Go to that site. And David, thank you so much for your time, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. God bless, bro. Peace.
All right. Peace.